Hi, everyone. So, I have a new product for you to partake in, one that I'm going to share with you, and that is Be Believe. So, Be Believe in the power of playful learning. So, dive into the world of wonder with Be Believe's rich collection of animations, catchy songs, playful coloring pages, hands on activity sheets, and engaging ebooks. Each element is thoughtfully crafted to captivate young minds while reinforcing positive behaviors in a fun and meaningful way. Whether your little one is watching a magical adventure, singing along, coloring their favorite character, or reading an enchanting tale, every moment is packed with joy, learning, and imagination. So if you go to our unique code, or link in order to not only support Be Believe, but also support the podcast, you can head to be-believe.com/reality2. So that's www.believe.com/reality2. So that is REALITEATWO. And the link is also in the show notes where you can also link to that. So head on over to Be Believe with our unique code link, and you can unleash good behavior through enchanting tales, where imagination and good behavior unite. Thank you, Be Believe, for supporting this podcast. Now, back to the show. Patreon, going strong. If you want to go over there and join in on the fun, we got 3 tiers on Canadian dollars. First tier is $3 a month, where you get these episodes ad free. You also get AMAs once a month, or learn about me episodes once a month. And then on the second tier, which is $5 a month, you get everything from the first tier, as well as coverage of a reality show of yesteryear. That's right now Jersey Shore, currently in season 3. You can also go to the main feed, where there will be the first episode of every season released there, so you can try that before you head over to the Patreon. And then on the third tier, you get everything from the first 2 tiers, as well as coverage from a true crime documentary. We got the backlog of Ashley Madison documentary, Man with 1,000 Kids, Into the Fire, Lacey Peterson, and again, all those episodes for the first episode of each is in the main feed, so you can try that before you head over. So if you are interested, you can head over to patreon.com/realityt2, and you can sign up for whichever tier you feel for. Again, you can try before you buy, which basically means you can try any tier for a week before committing to it. Even if you are on other tier, if you are on tier 1 or the first tier and you want to go over to the second tier, you could still try that second tier for a week before committing to the upgrade. So again, that is at patreon.com/realityt2. And of course, the link is in the show notes, website, social media accounts. It's all available there. This episode is ad-free on the Patreon. So if you want to partake in that, you can head on over to patreon.com/realityt2. Welcome to Reality T times 2, a podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we're going to be discussing The Last Resort, episode 7. So let's just jump into the reason that we're here, episode 7. So Poe and Russ are arguing again about him not going down on her again. Okay. The fact that he's not taking the initiative for her is what's pissing her off. She says, "You're the man. What does that have to do with shit? What does that have to do with anything? Men aren't the only ones that go down on women. Just saying." So, what? Okay. Women can initiate sex too. Maybe what maybe okay, here's the thing. Maybe what she needs to do is, like, take her pussy, put it to his face, while she takes her head and puts it to his dick. We call that 69. Or, if you don't wanna do that, just sit on his face, for fuck's sakes, and, guide him. Or you're in control, move your body around. The fuck? Figure it out, both of you. God. So, apparently she gave him head, I think, like, the night before or something like that, and he did not return the favor. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. Yep. I mean, here's the thing. That's fucked up. Every person deals with this kind of thing a little bit differently. For me, if I'm going to give head to my boyfriend, I am not necessarily expecting him to do the same, and vice versa. There's times where he's gone down on me and it's not been reciprocated on my part. So, like, it's not a big deal, but I think the issue here is, I mean, my man knows what he's doing, Russ does not. So, yeah. So Shekinah says that when she was in the wilderness school, boarding school cult, they were sleeping by a mountain, she says, and a deer just fell on top of her while she was in the tent. She was not hurt though. What? Okay, I don't know how big this mountain is or how tall, I should say, how tall this mountain is, but if a big fucking deer, I'm assuming, either it's a doe, a deer, a female deer, or a stag, I'm going to assume that that shit is probably coming from high above. And then, oh, I don't know, with the physics of the fact that that thing is coming towards you and then hits you, girl, you're dead. What the fuck? You're dead. Unless it's Bambi, you're dead. Maybe it was Bambi, y'all. Maybe Bambi fell on top of her. And then my question then is the deer alive? Did the deer live? Something tells me the deer would not live in that situation. You and deer, dead. This didn't happen. This didn't happen. She's a fucking liar. This did not fucking happen. Or the deer landed on somebody else and she's taken it for herself to get, I don't know, sympathy. No. 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 Mm. Anyway, so yes, she was not her, she says, but Shekinah is doing the damn thing though. Like, she literally really is. She knows what she's doing. More on that in a second. Rebecca, Zied, Patrick, and Thais find animal poop. Ew. But Patrick will not be pooping in the outdoors, don't you worry, y'all. If you're wondering, we weren't. He pooped a lot at the castle. He ate a bunch of food to make him constipated. He will not be pooping out in the forest. Don't you worry, okay? So Zied has an issue that Rebecca works 12 to 14 hours a day. More on this a little bit more later, but she has no time for him, he says, and that really does bother him. So yeah, they'll be addressing that again a little later. But Shekinah has this bright idea to spread the peanut butter that her and Sarper got onto the bread that Jenny and Sumit got with a stick that an animal potentially could have peed on. Sarper had the even brighter idea, in my opinion, smarter idea to say, we could just use our fingers. At least I know where my fingers have been. I agree. I'm not using a stick. They're just different white people. Let me tell you. No. Sarper is more like my kind of white people who looks at that and is like, ew. No. He does eat it, kind of, barely. He wasn't really into it. But Patrick asks Thais, well, if she's okay. Because again, if you remember, she threw up the night before. And she says like everything she's eating is making her nauseous. And he's asking like, could she be pregnant? Like, do we have to do like a pregnancy test or something? And she says, I'm not ready to be pregnant. Right now, we're talking about divorce. Like, that's something that she doesn't want to bring a child into, which I totally get. And yeah, it's totally understandable. I wouldn't want to either. So, well, I'm going to say, I'm going to assume, spoiler alert, she's not. Baby, I don't even know. Well, we'll find out, I'm sure. But Shekinah, Sarper, Jenny, Sumit, they're the first ones to make it to the campsite. I can tell you right now, the only reason that happened is because of Shekinah. Never once on my bingo card did I think that she's going to be getting to a campsite before everybody else, that she's going to know how to build a tent, that she's, who knew? Who knew? But she does say she's a little bit more Los Angeles than she is wilderness. Yeah. But then Zied, Rebecca, Patrick, and Thais come in next, and they start doing their thing. But it's starting to get dark, okay? And Guillermo, Kara, Russ, and Pau are not there yet. And they're starting to think like, oh, are we going to have to send like a search party out for them? Because like they're not here. Russ, the one who was saying that he's an Eagle Scout. Nope, couldn't even make it there. And Kara's like, it's pretty bad when we're the last ones here. Because I figured with his wilderness expertise and her strength that we would be like the first ones here. We are dead last. Jenny and Sumit got here before us. That's a bad look. Damn. You have to go like all that. But now, because everyone's here, now that everyone has done their tents, we're gonna do some talk therapy now. So we first talked to Jenny and Sumit. And her big thing again, as we know, she wants to move, out of parents' home. And this is what she wants to do. She gets it. She says, like, I get that he isn't working and all of this, but like she just wants out. And here's the problem though. We find out that Sadna and what's the dad's name? Papa Sumit have not been the ones paying the rent. I have so many questions. So many questions. But before we get to my questions, Sumit's been the one who's been paying the rent, and Jenny has been none the wiser. So he explains that he doesn't know why, but they just stopped paying the rent. And my thing is, why? Why? Is this cultural? Is it expected that the parents don't, or the kids I should say, pay the rent? Like, it's weird that all of a sudden, once they're there, they just stop paying rent. What? So the questions that everyone else is now starting to have is, how are they saving money? They're not. How are you affording this? Well, Sumit has another secret that he has not told Jenny. He says, I'm under so much pressure, but I gotta tell you the truth. So after a couple of months, this is when they stopped paying the rent. And he ended up taking out loans. So excuse the fuck out of me. You went to live with your parents to help with saving on money, to be able to pay your bills, and they just stopped paying rent. So now you are getting a loan that you're going to be responsible for, that the interest rate on that is high as fuck. And you have to pay that back. No one else. You and Jenny. And Dr. Tyrone asks, how much did you get in loans? He says about $15,000 to $20,000. So again, let me get this straight. You have loans $15,000 worth of loans or $20,000 worth of loans, and you have to pay all of that back because your parents just decided one day to stop paying rent. So, of course, he never told Jenny. No surprise there. And Patrick asks, "Why are you willing to sacrifice your relationship for your parents?" Because it's the culture. He can't just leave his parents, but you did before. You left your parents before. And the only reason you're there now is because you're broke. And that's all not likes Jenny. So, like, I'm very confused, you know, because you've done all of this. You did sacrifice your parents. You went and got a marriage, and divorced your first wife because you didn't want it, you know, which obviously didn't help with your relationship with your parents, seeing as it was arranged. So, what? My pal says, your parents lived their life. It's time for you to live yours, which I agree. And Jenny's like, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to bed. And of course, he goes with her. And he pissed me off here because he says, everything since being here is my fault. Well, yes, you're lying to her about your finances. She's thinking it's one thing and it's not. You're lying to her about investing into things that she never was told about. You're drinking more. Here's the thing though, not everything's starting to make sense. What if he's drinking more because he's under so much pressure, he's stressed out, and that's why he's drinking more than he was before? But we move on to Patrick and Thais. And Patrick says, I spoke to my brother John, who spoke to my father-in-law, Carlos. Remember back in one of their HGA seasons, I think the last HGA season that they were on, um, he he basically John and Carlos became best of friends. Okay. They don't speak the same language, but you know what needs to speak the same language. Like, you know what I mean? We want our friendship. It's fine. So he basically John said that he was told by Carlos that Thais is still hiding things from her last trip to Brazil. And Paola says, well, wait a minute. What is he saying? And he's like, well, he didn't tell me. Because we see the clip, John refused to tell him, saying, oh, you're in therapy. She should tell you. And Paola has a good point here in saying, you need proof. Because right now, then it's just speculation, just assumptions. None of it is based in reality. So, um, yeah, and I agree with her. You're jumping to conclusions when you don't know what's going on, and you're trusting John before even fully knowing what's going on. But um, he, she's saying, you need to show the receipts, otherwise, you stand by your wife. You stand by her, which again, fair. It's true. And he also says they parent like they are single parents. They both hang with or take care of Elise at separate times and never together. That's the saddest part here. That's the saddest part here. And Dr. Tyrone says, maybe you need to date each other again. What an idea. What a novel idea. But let's do family therapy first because that's going to be juicier than you two dating each other again. Family therapy with John. Yes. Anyways, we then move on to Zied and Rebecca, and they've been getting along just swimmingly. The sex therapy apparently helped because they're putting that shit to good use. Um, but today they got along because, in Ziad's words, there was no cell phones. Her focus is on him and them 100% because all she does is work. But he complains or she says that he complains that he hates his life, which is, if that's true and he's saying those kind of things, that's horrible. That's happened to the face, really. And she's like, oh, he hates his life so much, but he's driving a Mercedes and he lives in Florida by the beach. Okay, and so because you're basically saying he has these material things or these things that people should like fiend over, that he has a good life, money don't buy you happiness. We know this. So to me, it just feels like he's expressing himself and expressing how he's feeling. And he says, oh, I think this is a language barrier for what he's about to say next. Oh my God. He says, I want her to be a real wife. Oh shit. Because of course she hears that. She goes off, y'all. Like, whoa. And Shekinah's like, can we hear what he has to say? I want to hear what he has to say. Rebecca, unfortunately, though, does not want to hear what Shekinah has to say and says, can you just let us worry about our problems, please? And she's like, you're interrupting him more than I am. Okay, wait. You did interrupt him because you're immediately like, how am I not a real wife? How am I not a real wife? Yet not giving him an opportunity to explain himself. So Shekinah's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. So she walks off and says, I'm not coming back. And he continues to say, I want to feel married. You don't cook for me. We don't talk. You work 16 hours a day. And what I loved here though is Guillermo coming in and kind of saying, can I say something? What you're asking for is not possible right now. Like you can't have those things right now. And Paola says, but why does cooking and cleaning make her a good wife? No, 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 no. He didn't say that she was a bad wife. He said that she's not a real wife. Get it straight. But like, she's like, it's 50-50. I cook, I clean, you cook, you clean. We do this shit together because we are a partnership. And Rebecca says, listen, I was a chef. I was excited to be able to cook for him. But lo and behold, we were able to determine that he doesn't like American food. So we actually don't even eat the same meals. Um, so maybe we don't cook the same meals, but what about eating together? Because it doesn't appear that they're doing that. If not every day, dedicate a time of which you're doing that every week, you know what I mean? Make the effort, I guess. Um, so she's like, what do you want? What am I missing? Of course, she's being a lot more aggressive than what I'm describing, but he doesn't want to talk at this point. And she's like, okay, but how can we fix things if you're not talking? And Dr. Tyrone is just like, hey, you know what? Let's take a break. Let's calm down here. Let's take a break. Um, so they're like, John, take a break. Take a break. Um, so Dr. Tyrone ends up telling Rebecca, he has limited vocabulary. You have to allow him the opportunity to express himself. Here's the thing. I do think, yes, he has limited vocabulary. And yes, he does need the space to express himself. I'm not saying Rebecca's fully wrong here. I think her delivery is what's wrong. It sucks. But she says to him, you're not a real husband. You're not a real husband. How does it feel? How does it feel? How does it feel? But she's not giving him an opportunity to actually say how it makes him feel. He eventually has to yell back at her and say, let me talk. Give me a chance. Proud of you, Zied. You go, boy. Girl. Anyways. And she's like, don't yell at me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What? You've been doing nothing but yelling at him, and you have the audacity to tell him not to yell? Yet you've been doing nothing but yelling at him since you got here. What? So he says, what happened? Or see what happens, because she ends up walking off because he's not taking her shit. And he's like, this is what happens. This is why I drove to Virginia. Oh, 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 the fighting words. And she's like, oh, shut up, or some shit like that. And yeah, it's not cool. It's not good. Don't like it. But anyways, that is it for episode 7. I would tap on a little extra here, talk about diaries, but I'll have to do that another time. And so, yeah, this episode will be a bit shorter. But you will be getting another episode later on today. Check back at around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when you can expect the next episode. Or if you want more of me besides just this, you can head on over. I should do this a little more often. You can head on over to Next Day Podcast, where there's an episode right now today that should be releasing. If not yet released, it will be released by the end of the day today. Just depends on my co-host and when he releases it. But there will be another episode there if you want more of me from today. Or you can just go over there and listen to back episodes, back catalog. But anyways, that is it for me. And that is it for this episode. If you liked what you heard, bear with me because I have not done an outro for the podcast in quite some time. So bear with me here. So if you liked what you heard, you can go to any of your favorite podcast apps. You can follow, make sure you don't miss a single episode. And you can also rate the podcast at either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It'd be greatly appreciated. As a reminder, any 5-star ratings that are given to the podcast or any comments that are given to the podcast will be read on the podcast, which I have done in the past. If you want to connect with the podcast through social media, you can find me at Facebook and Instagram at Reality T times 2. You can also find me at Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Reality times 2 pod. I believe you can email me at realityt times 2 at hotmail.com, and you can have any inquiries, anything like that, any ideas, any shows or episodes you want me to cover, you can definitely do that over there. And I am going back to our old website, and that is at solo.to/reality t times 2. There you can get any of the links to anything that I didn't mention here, any of the socials, website, email, all of that. It's all there for you. And we also have a new thing there where you can help support the podcast as well. It's called a tip jar. And you can tip whatever your heart's desire if you want to support the podcast, but don't want to necessarily support the podcast in going to Patreon, for example, or any of the links in any of the advertisements. You can do it there. But since we're on the topic of Patreon, you can head on over to patreon.com/reality t times 2, where there you can get access to even more than what I do here. There are 3 different tiers where you can get these shows ad free, as well as our next tier up where you would get another reality show that's being covered. So, we have Jersey Shore that's been getting covered. That's still being covered currently at the time of recording of this outro, but the future is bright with what's to come in the future, which I will be discussing, or I have discussed. I don't even know. And then also our next tier is a true crime tier as well. So you can definitely head over for that. But that is basically it. I will also just quickly mention here too, if you're interested in a different take of a podcast that I'm a part of, we do things a little differently, you can head on over to Next Take Podcast, where I usually drop bonus episodes here on this feed, but there you get a lot more. And that podcast is making changes. We're growing, doing new things, but you can definitely head on over there if you want to just hear a little bit different than what I do over here. So you can find that podcast over at our website, solo.to/next take podcast. And there we'll have all the links to your desire that will link you to any of your favorite podcast apps or YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of it. Social medias, it's all over there. But of course, you can still find that podcast at any of your favorite podcast apps. But that is it for this episode. We'll see you next time with another episode. Bye, everybody.